The moment someone raises their voice to prove they are right, your brain immediately prepares for battle. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, and your ego demands that you hit back with a sharper, more devastating counter-argument. You want to see the exact moment their face changes when they realize they have lost. You want the satisfaction of watching them swallow their pride in front of everyone else. But while you are burning valuable mental energy fighting for a fleeting moment of social validation, the most dangerous mind in the room is doing something completely different. They are nodding their head. They are apologizing. They are pretending to lose. To understand why this tactical defeat is an absolute power move, you must first look at the psychological concept of the confirmation bias trap. When a person enters an argument with high emotional intensity, their logical prefrontal cortex completely shuts down. They are no longer seeking truth. They are seeking a dopamine hit from dominance. Research led by Dr. Jonas Kaplan at the University of Singapore and extended by neuroscientists at the University of Southern California demonstrated that when deeply held personal beliefs are challenged, the brain activates the same evolutionary defense networks that protect us from physical predators. You are not arguing with a rational human being. You are arguing with a cornered animal. The smart observer knows that trying to win a logical argument against an emotional defense system is a statistical waste of time. If you crush their point with facts, they will not thank you. They will simply resent you, adjust their narrative to play the victim, and look for a future opportunity to sabotage your status. By deliberately choosing to yield, by saying something as simple as, "You might be right about that," you instantly disarm their nervous system. The threat disappears, their ego is satisfied, and they immediately drop their guard. This is where the real strategy begins. In behavioral science, this is closely linked to what Robert Greene calls the tactic of surreal surrender. When you pretend to lose an argument, you are not admitting defeat, you are buying information. The moment an opponent believes they have completely defeated you, their psychological defenses evaporate. They stop monitoring what they say. They begin to over-explain, brag, and inadvertently reveal their true motives, their hidden insecurities, and the exact limits of their intelligence. While they are celebrating a superficial victory, you are quietly mapping out their entire psychological profile. Consider how this plays out in your daily social circles or your professional life. When someone tries to diminish your authority by starting a petty argument in front of others, they are fishing for a specific reaction. They want your anger because your anger validates their status as a rival. If you engage, you elevate them to your level. But if you calmly look at them, agree with their minor point, and completely remove your emotional investment, you create a massive shift in social pressure. The audience doesn't see a victor. They see a desperate person who made a lot of noise, and a calm, immovable individual who remained entirely detached. Let us dissect the precise mechanics of why human beings are so easily blinded by the illusion of victory. For thousands of years, survival depended on social hierarchy within the tribe. To be wrong was to risk a loss of status, which could ultimately lead to ostracization and death. This is why the urge to defend an argument feels like a life-or-death scenario to your primitive nervous system. When you observe someone fighting desperately over a meaningless point, you are witnessing an ancient survival mechanism misfiring in the modern world. They are trapped by their own biology. By contrast, the practitioner of calculated detachment has bypassed this evolutionary trap. They recognize that temporary submission is a form of cognitive judo. Instead of meeting force with force, which only escalates the tension and depletes your own resources, you step aside and let the weight of their own arrogance pull them down. You allow them to believe they have won the territory, while you retain absolute control over the terrain itself. It is a profound shift from a short-term reactive mindset to a long-term strategic perspective. This approach is further validated by the work of behavioral psychologist Dr. Leon Festinger on cognitive dissonance. When you refuse to fight back against someone who is actively trying to provoke you, it forces them into a state of psychological discomfort. Their brain expects a confrontation to justify their hostility. When you hand them an effortless victory instead, they are left with nothing to push against. The internal tension they brought to the table has nowhere to go, so it turns inward. They begin to question your compliance, wondering if your sudden agreement is a sign of genuine submission or a sign of utter condescension. To truly understand the power of this strategy, we must look into the historical concept of tactical obscurity. Throughout history, the most enduring strategists understood that presenting oneself as less threatening or even slightly naive was a supreme advantage. By allowing your opponent to feel intellectually superior, you cultivate an environment where they become sloppy. They begin to miscalculate your capabilities, underestimate your influence, and speak far too freely in your presence. In the realm of high-stakes negotiations and interpersonal intelligence, An underestimated individual is the most dangerous force in the room. Furthermore, pretending to lose allows you to protect your most valuable assets, your focus and your peace of mind. Every time you allow yourself to be dragged into a loud, emotional debate, you are granting the other person free real estate inside your head. You spend the rest of the day replaying the conversation, thinking of what you should have said, and harboring toxic resentment. By mastering the art of the strategic loss, you close the interaction instantly. You give them their hollow victory and send them on their way, leaving your mind completely clear to focus on your actual goals, your work, and your long-term growth. Consider also the phenomenon known in social psychology as the backfire effect, heavily studied by researchers like Brendan Nyhan. This data shows that when you present core facts to a highly argumentative person, it doesn't change their mind. Instead, it causes them to dig their heels in deeper, fortifying their original position with even more delusion. Knowing this, the intelligent individual realizes that direct correction is an exercise in futility. Agreeing with them superficially is not a compromise of your principles. It is a calculated dismissal of their relevance to your life. When you practice tactical surrender, you also alter the perception of those observing the interaction. In a room full of people, the individual who remains unbothered offers zero defensive explanations and simply smiles or nods while another person rants invariably commands the subconscious respect of the room. The aggressor appears unstable, driven by a desperate need for control, while you appear completely centered, self-sufficient, and immune to social manipulation. You are letting them expose themselves while you maintain total composure. This strategic baseline is perfectly illustrated by the classic prisoner's dilemma variations analyzed in modern game theory. When two parties assume a purely competitive stance, the mutual destruction of resources is almost always guaranteed. By absorbing their initial aggression with a calculated retreat, you disrupt the game's equilibrium entirely. Your structural silence operates as an unreadable variable that forces them to overextend their position. You are essentially turning their own kinetic momentum into a trap. In the end, the social circle perceives their desperate need for validation as a deep sign of low-status anxiety, whereas your economy of words marks you as the undisputed anchor of gravity in the environment. True psychological dominance is never loud. It does not need the applause of a crowded room or the immediate satisfaction of being declared right. True power lies in controlling the flow of information and deciding exactly when the interaction ends. By mastering the art of the strategic loss, you ensure that your opponents are always playing a game they think they are winning, while you are the one holding the entire board. If you understand the depth of this strategy, leave a comment below saying simply, "I hold the board." Let it be a quiet pact between those who truly understand the power of detachment. Don't forget to subscribe if you intend to master your own psychology before the world tries to master it for you. Stay calm, stay observant, stay unshakable. See you next time.